I'm sorry if you're not really into this content right now, but don't worry, in a couple of weeks I'll be mixing it up a bit. So, the first thing that we're gonna make is a purification pouch. So what you're going to need is some kind of container. You can use a small pot. I have like a bunch of these which I keep my herbs in, but they're like creams and stuff. Cream pots and things, or little travel containers for when you go on holiday, things like that. You can easily use those, or you can find some kind of burlap pouch, an old purse that you have. I have a lot of these organza bags for my jewelry business, that's why I package it in, and whenever they break, like the ribbon comes untied or something, I always keep them. So the ribbon is not in this one, so it's not a drawstring bag, but for that I have jute string, which I'll be using to tie it up with. So a bag, some kind of string, but you can choose one that you haven't taken the string out of, that's totally fine as well. Some sage, or whatever you normally use to cleanse your crystals and whatever. If you have Palo Santo, then get some Palo Santo, like cut some off, or get some of the ashes. Doesn't matter, whatever you normally use. Some salt for really good purification. Amethyst. I use these little chips because it saves a lot of space in the actual pouch or bottle or whatever I'm using. But if you want, you can get one of these, which is just a tumblestone amethyst, which is a bit bigger. Or you can use a raw crystal, which means that it hasn't been polished. Which basically just means that it looks like that. A cluster of crystals. Whatever you want to use, and then to amplify everything that's going in there, some clear quartz. For reference, 2 of these crafts are definitely going to use clear quartz. So let's get started with this one. Now the first thing you're going to want to do obviously is cleanse all of your materials, which I've done off camera just to save some time. Obviously these things are self-cleansing. The only reason you want to cleanse it really is to like hold it and put your affirmation into it, put in what you want out of this, that sort of cleansing. It's kind of, you know, it's like soap, it's self-cleaning. But the first thing is, I'm just going to take the quartz out of my bowl so I don't struggle. You can use a mortar and pestle if you want, that's completely optional. You could just plop everything in and don't worry about it. But I like putting as much energy and as much thought into what I do as possible, as humanly possible. So the action of turning the ingredients together really, you know, I want to do it, so. So do that for however long you feel necessary, or don't do it at all. Again, most of this stuff is just very what you want to do. So all that has done is kind of breaking up some of the salt. My salt has quite large crystals, as you can see. It's quite a rocky salt. You can use a more ground up salt, or you can grind it up yourself. And then it's just broken up the sage leaf that I chose to use. Of course, you don't want the salt to be too ground up, because in a sack like this, if you're using the same one as me, it can have some holes that just let the salt or whatever herb you've put in there just fall through, you know? Like there's a lot of salt dust on my desk now from pieces that are literally dust now because they've been shaken about so much and all that. So there's my salt and my sage. With all of these crafts, as you do it, you obviously need to be thinking about what you want this used for, all of those things. So now I'm just going to take, I always pour out the crystals onto my hand before I put them into anything that I'm making, just because it helps me to control the amount a bit better. When you're pouring it into this, especially with clear quartz, you can't necessarily see how many crystals you're putting in, so yeah. this is just something I like to do personally, is just like roll them around in my hand and put my intent in there and just think about what this is going to be used for. And then gently pour them in. There. So now I'm going to put my crystals away. I don't need the amethyst anymore. So, there we go. Obviously put as much stuff as you want in it, put everything you have in it or whatever. Just do what you want, honestly. But now I'm going to take some jute string and we just want to tie it up. Now, because there isn't a lot in mine, I like the empty air space in a lot of my pouches, but of course if you want, fill it right to the brim. Put even less than this, however you feel is necessary. Even you can accurately measure literally everything that you put in it. So now would be the time to put a charm on it if you want. I have here a little assortment of like pentagrams. I've got an acorn, just a tree of life in there, same as the one that I put on my own personal poppet. So just really pick whatever charm you want, or you could not put a charm on it. I'm not drawn to any of those charms for protection, so I'm not going to, but I'll show you how I'm putting extra thought into my binding in just a second once I've tied this up. Really tight, make sure you do it like really super tight as well. Now the way that I am kind of amping up this pouch is by putting some black lace around the tie. The colour black in general to me is very a cut-off colour, so it just, I'm putting my energy into it to say nothing negative get in, you know, this is purification, it's supposed to be very positive and cleansing and all that, so I don't want anything negative. And the black ribbon to me masks the tie, so it's kind of symbolic of anything bad not knowing how to get in, because I'm completely blocking off where it comes undone. And also just the fact that the colour black is very protective in that sense. So that's what I've chosen to do. This black lace has a sticky layer on the edge, which is how you put it on things. So that's what I shall do. It's also going to secure my tie because it's quite sticky. It's going to make sure that it doesn't come undone anytime soon. Now I like that my salt kind of lets dust come out, if you can see that, because that kind of helps with purification, as if I can dust the salt over things and it's got those crystals in it which is amplifying all of the properties of the ingredients, all those things, you just dust it over whatever you're cleansing and it's just supposed to help you cleanse. And if you keep it somewhere that you want cleansed all the time, like keep it around your altar, I'm probably going to do that, then you're constantly keeping that pure energy around your altar, those sorts of things. You could even, with whatever you tie it up, make a loop so you can hang it up in the air wherever you want. But for now, I'm just going to keep mine there. So that's the first craft. I hope that you like that one, and let's move on to the next one. So for the next one, there's a few overlapping ingredients from the last one, such as clear quartz, jute string, salt, or just anything purification wise that you want to put in it. You could put more sage in it, you could put salt and sage, whatever you wish. Then you're going to need a small jar or small pot. These used to have this one used to have assorted beads in it and stuff, and it's glass, so it's quite strong. Just be careful if you're working with glass, make sure it has a cork. Or it can have a screw-on lid, I just prefer the look of corks, I don't know. I'm using some black peppercorns, some marigold, and some dragon dragon's blood incense. You can use cone incense. Cone incense is preferred for what I'm going to do with all these ingredients, but I don't have that right now for dragon's blood, so I'm just going to use one of my sticks. And then I'll be sealing it with the string, an orange candle, and some of my black candle. Now you can pick whatever colour candle you want. I'll explain when it comes to it what the candle meanings are and the reason why I choose different colour candles for this sort of thing. But anyway, let's get into it. Now the first thing is to obviously purify all of your ingredients. So I'm leaving it on camera this time because I realise that maybe people aren't really sure what I mean by that. But I like to use sage, so I've just lit an edge of it and I'm just holding the bottle over it and letting it go inside of the bottle. You can't really see right now, but how do I do that? There we go. You can kind of see it going up there. And definitely, if you don't want to purify all of the ingredients, the bottle is like the number one thing, and the cork. So you don't necessarily definitely have to purify literally everything that you put into it, as long as the container is pure and some of the ingredients you put in are pure, like if you put some sage in it or salt, Palo Santos, whatever you like. Now for this, you need some kind of heat-proof container. I'm using my cauldron. How cool is my cauldron? So the things that you want to put into this obviously is like an affirmation. Now that's completely optional. I like using these positive thinking pieces of paper that you can buy from like cheap, cheesy shops, but you can write your own on a small piece of paper. It can be coloured, it can be not coloured, but colour magic is quite easily accessible and powerful, which is a reason why you use coloured candles and things. So if you want to put it on coloured paper, or you can write it in coloured pen that resembles the emotion or the feeling you're trying to put in there. You can literally just write the word happiness on it, or you can write I will be happy, something that's really, or you can find a quote online that's quite impactful. I've pulled this orange one out to go with the orange candle. The positive thinker sees the invisible, feels the intelligible, and achieves the impossible. So that's what I want to put into mine. So you'll need that. You'll need the incense and the black pepper. I am going to grind up my black pepper just a little bit. Just like the tiniest bit. I find power in fives, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So I always add, if I'm adding individual things like peppercorns, I always make sure I have something divisible by 5. But some people mostly find power in 3 or in 10s, like just do whatever feels natural. Now, black peppercorns obviously are going to make my very white Moran pestle very dirty. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Again, just do whatever feels natural. But black peppercorns can be hard to light, so I always try and grind them up at least a little bit, just to help set them alight and let everything mix together. So I'm going to put in the peppercorns. And I'm going to light my incense. Of course, if you have a cone, that's why this will be easier, because the cone just falls apart. But with an incense stick, you have to like wait for it to get ashy on the end, like a cigarette, and then just tap the ash in. Which can take some time depending on what your incense is like, and also with fire, be really careful, okay? So I'm going to sit here thinking and saying my intent and just doing my thing. Another thing you could do is hold the cauldron and just like channel everything you've got that you want in this, all the happiness that you want to receive from this, and channel it. Let the smoke envelop. Even put on some music that makes you feel happy. Just make sure you're in a happy and calm space. And I'll be right back in a minute once I've got enough in here. So I haven't ended up using the whole stick, just the tip of it. So now I'm going to burn this. Again, be really careful. Paper can set alight really quickly and just envelop when you're least expecting it, so honestly be so careful with this. Or just don't do it at all. You can put the paper in without having burnt it. Don't worry, I have heat-proof stuff all over my floor because I cannot be trusted with fire. But I have heat-proof things around me, I have water around me, I have all of the protective, just because I'm not showing it on camera, okay? So make sure that you have those things. Don't hurt yourself, please, dear God. So now you just do the same thing with the incense. Watch it burn. Think or say out loud your affirmation. All the things that you want from this. Now you can let it burn until it's completely ash, or you can leave some of the paper showing or some of the words showing. You can control burn it and just burn the edges and just do what you like. You can put it on a tiny piece of paper if your pot's a bit bigger than mine and show the word at the bottom. You can put it on a bay leaf, which is known as a wishing leaf. I've left some of my orange paper slightly showing to keep the colour throughout the whole spell, basically. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start putting it in the pot. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to put it down in layers so that you can see all of the ingredients. So the first thing I'm going to add is some marigold. And I'm trying not to get buds in it. I just want the little leaves. Now, if you have a wider set pot, you might end up having to put a lot of different things into it to fill up the space and such. Sorry, I'm just using my wand. You can do that as well. If you use your wand for anything, you're just putting that energy into it, casting, helping you. Mine has a flat edge on it, which I did on purpose. But yeah, I'm going to put some marigold leaves at the bottom. I'll just keep that there just in case. And then I'm going to put some salt. Not a lot, just 5 pinches because power and 5. So the next thing you're going to want to do is put the ashes of what you were just burning into your pot. You can do it in whatever layer you like. This is just the layering that I like. Obviously, again, I'm going to use my wand to mix everything to get together and find that power in it. Now, if you literally just burnt this stuff, be really careful handling it. Maybe even use a small spoon to scoop it out. Or just pour it in. Honestly, kind of depends on what your situation looks like with how everything burnt up together. Because mine has some big bits in it. So I don't necessarily want, you know, all of that. But as you can see, this is quite a big piece left of mine. And I could burn it some more, but I think I'm just going to shove it in somehow. Then I'm going to sprinkle in, remember, I've chosen to purify all of these separately. But you can do what you like with that. You can purify it as you go along. Cleanse it as you go along. You can do it however you so desire. This is where the majority of my crystal's going to be. I don't want to keep putting crystal in it. I just want that power fairly in the middle, encompassing, like encasing everything else I'm going to put in. So I'll come back once I've put everything in and show you binding it up. So it's getting a bit dark now. I'm sorry this is taking a while. But I have now filled it as far as I want to fill it. You can go all the way to the very tippy top, but I have quite a big cork in mine and I want it to be quite far down, like so.